Welcome to Sky Women. I'm your host, Dr. Carolyn Moyers, a wife, mom, and board-certified OB-GYN. This is a place to educate, empower, and inspire. Join us each week as we share the power of women's stories. Real women, real stories, real inspiration. Put on your stretchy pants. Let's get going. Welcome, Sky community, to another episode of Sky Women. I am so glad that you've joined us this morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you're listening from, your car or your morning walk, or maybe you're just between patients or momming, whatever it is that you're doing this morning. So we have a fabulous guest with us today, Dr. Kate Mangona. Did I say your last name right, Kate?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways to say it, but that Mangona, that's actually closer than what I say.
All right. So Dr. Mangona, or Kate as we'll call her, began practicing as a board-certified pediatric radiologist in 2015 after completing 6 years of medical school program at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, radiology residency at Beaumont Health System in Royal Oak, Minnesota, and a pediatric radiology fellowship at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, Texas. She is a supportive physician's wife. So her husband is a pediatric radiation oncologist. And they have 3 little girls together and a mini poodle. And I love watching Kate all over the internet on Facebook. And just, I love how she shows up in such a real way, the good, the bad, the ugly, the mindset reshifts when things just don't go according to plan. And Kate is also a certified life coach, and she hosts the Medicine, Marriage, and Money podcast and leads the Medicine, Marriage, and Money coaching program, where she helps married physicians, moms spend less time arguing with their spouse and more time reigniting the sparks once felt during their honeymoon. I just love this, Kate. This is such a great niche that you are filling. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Yes, no, I love my niche. I'm super passionate about it because that's what I needed, at several years ago in my marriage. And there was no place that I found it for women physicians. So I'm like, okay, I guess it's on me.
I mean, isn't that something? I feel like so often in life, we become our own hero. Right. And so we're like, well, if I was struggling to find resources, then I bet other women are struggling to find resources, or other person, that they could benefit from that. And so then you're able to guide them.
Yeah. Yeah. And like all I found was one article, on dual physician couples and that Harvard had published one article. And then really nobody that specifically coached it. One person, Ali Novitsky, but then she was kind of shifting into more of like a body, your body mindset. And then on Facebook groups, I love all the Facebook groups I'm in,
yes.
CMG. But what I found is most people would just complain about their husbands, or they'd post something and they'd be like, so one-sided, like, this is what you should do. And I'm like, well, we don't even know her whole situation here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love that you're doing this specifically around, it's very much an individual. We all have our own relationship with money, right?
Yeah.
And then we have our relationship with our partner who has his own relationship with money. And so I think finding a way where we can really collaborate and have conversations without as much drama and fighting, right? And really find that passion again, especially when you're mothering to all these children.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
So what do you feel like has been the biggest lesson for you in regards to motherhood and marriage and money?
The biggest lesson for me? Okay. Oh, well, you know what? And we just spoke about this actually when I had you on my podcast. The biggest lesson is that you can't change your spouse. Even if, they've already told you that and you're like, oh, well, no, you're going to change. You're going to soften. Your tone is going to get a little less like what I want it to be, no. Okay. You have to stop waiting on them, the other person in the relationship. And this works for any person you have a relationship with, and money.
Right.
You have to stop waiting. Okay, I'll wait until I get the signal or somebody gives me permission,
right,
or the opportunity arises. No, you actually have to decide. Mm-hmm. And that's what I found true for anything in my life. not until you decide, like say you even want to win something at work, or you want to be promoted, or you want to win the golden teaching apple award. Like this applies to everything, not just your husband. You have to decide that it's going to happen. And I feel like as physicians, especially when physicians were just taught, no, you just have to like learn more, perfect all of your techniques, and then it will happen. Or then you'll be given these opportunities. Instead of, no, you have to decide, right, that you're going to make this work with your husband, that you're going to show up differently to the relationship, that you're going to say, I'm going to achieve this. And then that's when things start to change.
That's when the magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think it's a lot more than like, I think of, what is the book called? The Secret, where you're like pulling in from the universe, like you're putting out what you want and you're creating. I mean, it's a lot more than the woo, because whenever you decide, you indefinitely start taking different actions.
Yeah.
Right. You show up different in that relationship. You show up different at work, or you show up different with your children when you've made the decision. This is how I'm going to be. This is the result I want. So our actions actually change when we make the decision.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how did you come into coaching? I mean, you're a successful physician, you're momming 3 girls, at what point did coaching come into your life?
So it happened at the very beginning of the pandemic, because my husband and I, we decided it would be best. Like nobody knew what to do, right? And how much to quarantine or shelter from each other. We're both working in the hospital. Right. He's working with immunocompromised patients. I'm working in the hospital. So we decided he would move out and live in a hotel for like the first couple months, right back when we thought it was going to end in a couple months. So he moved in a hotel, make sure he didn't have exposures to me. And I had my mom come down to help me with, I had 2 girls at the time. Okay. And so we barely saw each other. When we did, we would wear our masks, we would be distant. And I think it kind of like it was like a catalyst that set off something. Like it set off maybe the tension that was already there, but we hadn't really addressed, like, because I could no longer touch him. I could no longer kiss him. And I didn't even think that was my love language, but I think all of them are my love languages, like including, physical touch. So it just wasn't good. And I kept building up all these negative stories because I wasn't like, and we're not huge phone talkers. Like I want to see this person. I want to talk to him in person. Right. And speaking with him. So we weren't communicating the same. And things just got escalated. Like our already small issues we weren't addressing were getting worse because we weren't spending time with each other. And at some point,
and there was nothing to buffer it.
There was nothing to buffer it. Exactly. That's what it is. There was no physical to buffer. There was no even just like attempt at communicating in person. So we would get in an argument every single time we saw each other. I didn't know what I needed. I wasn't filling any of my needs buckets. And I didn't know how to communicate that with him. So instead I would just get angry. And I would paint all these really terrible, I would assume the worst every single time. Right. And so then finally he said something like, Kate, if you remain so unhappy, and I don't know the exact words, but it was something along the lines of, we're going to get a divorce, or you're going to want a divorce if you remain this happy with me. Like if you can't, right? And so, and I took it as, oh my God, like he's right. We can't just be angry at each other all the time. That's not like the relationship neither of us want. Especially when we worked so well together, and we always had that passion and that love for, like singing and dancing together and raising children. And so I decided it was time for myself to reach out for help and figure out what I needed to do to change the dynamic. And that's when I reached out to Ellie Novitsky, her group, because she had 1 month free. I'm like, okay, I'm all about this. And she was the only
Let's try it out.
Try it out. She was the only woman physician who was talking about marriage that I had heard about. So I got on one coaching call with her in front of 60 other women. And in order to prepare for that call, I started writing down all the things. And then I started looking at it. I had never written down many things about I didn't really journal. And I was like, oh my God, like everything I'm writing down makes him look terrible. Like this is all in my mind. Yeah. And this is not reality. He's not a terrible person. Like he's an amazing husband. Why am I focusing on all the wrong things?
Right.
So then I kind of like got a glimpse into just how my mindset needed to shift. And then she coached me. She helped me figure out that I was feeling unappreciated. Mm-hmm. When he appreciated me in so many ways. My husband appreciates me in so many ways, but he doesn't go around saying it every day. Like, who does that? Like, you don't go around telling your spouse every reason you. So I had to start appreciating myself. Mm-hmm. And knowing everything I was doing for the family was appreciated, and starting with me and loving myself. And it just kind of threw me into the whole coaching world, where then I joined Bonnie, same as you, like joined Bonnie Koo's program, because I was like also a good friend with her. I'm like, oh, let's get a little bit more financially savvy, just like my husband is. And then Sonny Smith, right? And then I like signed my husband up for coaching.
I love that you signed your husband for a empowering women physician coaching program, because you knew the value. Choice. There wasn't anything else available for the guys. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I knew the value, and he knew the value of coaching too. So it wasn't an issue of how much money it was going to cost. Like, he knew the value of coaching. He understood just from like being in sports, right? Like, he's a total sports fanatic and guy. And he's like, these athletes don't get to where they are without really amazing coaches. Same thing.
Right.
And it's 80% mindset. Like, even though we think, they have to shoot baskets every day or whatever.
Right.
So he was all about it. He was just like, I don't have the time. And so I said, you know what? I'm creating the time for you. Mm-hmm. And so I opened up hours in his calendar that I was no longer resentful or keeping track of how he was helping me with our two kids. I'm like, these hours are yours now.
Right. I love that. Okay. So I want to pause for just a minute and say the pandemic was a pressure cooker for so many people, and especially families with young kids. It was an absolute pressure cooker. So I do not believe that you are alone, but I love that you created some solutions and you said, well, what can we do about this? And now you're helping others. I think that's phenomenal. And even though you are a physician and you are coaching physician women around money and marriage, I really feel like that this conversation is valid for all the listeners in my audience, because majority are not physicians. But I think that we all have these struggles in our life, in the phases of life and mothering and marriage and figuring out money and feeling resentful, around whether it's how much help they're, getting at home or whatever. I mean, I hear it on a daily basis as a women's health provider.
Oh yeah. This applies to everyone. This is not just for physicians. I mean, I've coached lawyers and engineers and teachers. So yeah, this applies to everyone.
Okay. So you are not just coaching physicians.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's for all women.
It is.
Okay. Amazing. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So you have a dog and you'll live in Dallas and you are investing in real estate and you just remodeled your home and finally moved back in. How is everybody adjusting to this new
at first, my 2-year-old now she's 3. She kept saying, I miss the apartment. I'm like, you do? I know. Because it was so cozy. We were all on the same level. We could hear anybody in any room. So we're adjusting to our 2-story house. I would love to be in a ranch, but in Dallas, real estate's, land is in shorts, in high demand. So you got to build up. So as you can see, like my office is bare. The shelves are still on the floor. Nothing is situated still. But things have been hectic. I thought I was going to be able to do it myself, meaning like take care of my kids when I came home from work. But no, the hot water didn't work for the first couple of weeks. The air conditioning didn't work for the next couple of weeks. Like I decided to move when the house wasn't like tied up with a pretty little bow. I was just like, it's been a year. We haven't been in our house. We've been paying for our mortgage. We're moving back in, whether my GC says it's done or not. We're moving back in. People can come and go. So that like second day when I was losing my mind after moving back in, I flew my mom down. I think I made a post because like you say, like I tend to share a lot on Facebook about my daily struggles because I want people to know, hey, my life's not perfect, even though sometimes a picture can make it look so.
Oh, yeah. You look like you've got it all together. So I love that you share it all.
I have no problem asking for help. I think that's one of my strengths. And it's also helped because my husband also feels the same way. Like we have no problem hiring organizers. Like when we moved into the house, I hired a team of organizers to come organize the kitchen, our closets, and the pantry, the playroom and the pantry, because I did not take a day off of work for this move. Like I used one of my regular days off to do the move, but I didn't take any days. Typically I'd like to take a week off, but I didn't. So everything was disarray. And how do you do that with a baby and a toddler, and a 4-year-old? You just...
Yeah. They're undoing everything that you've done. You don't have a free hand.
And you can't find their we couldn't find their toothbrushes for a month. I'm telling you, like it was terrible. They're electric toothbrushes. So I hired a team, but they could only do so much because then it's like, well, the office, the shelves have to be, all this kind of stuff. So I have no problem hiring childcare to watch them while I get things organized. But I also want to know that I'm spending quality time with my kids and I'm not just going from work to home to do more work. So I'm really kind of intentional about the hours between 5 and 8. Typically, I reserve those for just my kids. I mean, it was hard when we first moved. I had to take care of some stuff. But as far as coaching goes or meetups, I really try most of the time not to do anything between 5 and 8. Sure, yeah, I'll go with the girls' night out occasionally or an entrepreneur meetup. But I really try to reserve that time to the best of my ability so I can be intentional with my girls.
Yeah. Well, I remember I had the pleasure of meeting you actually at Pinnacle in real life, finally. And so I remember as you were leaving, you said, this is something I'm really going to focus on. This is really important, being present. And I can totally relate to that as building a practice and podcasting and all of these things, showing up for social events to, network and just, when is enough? And are your kids feeling your attention instead of your distraction? And so that's been something huge for me too. And my husband has no problem calling me out on that and bringing me back into this is the real world.
Yeah. No, exactly. Because you're so different with your kids when you see them as a distraction. Yeah. Versus you're focused on just watching them develop in front of your eyes.
Mm-hmm. It really is amazing. I love seeing the world through their eyes. It's just such joy. And I feel like that I parented with so much intentionality when I just had one. Mm-hmm. And there's almost 9 years between number 1 and number 2. But, now that I have 2, 3, and 4, it's very different and it's very easy to be irritated and the workload is so much greater, you know? And so, that's what you just have to be willing to ask for help. We all are trying to preserve our sanity.
Oh, exactly.
Well, Kate, this has been such a pleasure. Please tell the listeners where that they can find you. And
sure. Yeah. Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Kate Mangona MD, and that's Kate Mangona, like the fruit mango, Mangona MD. And you can listen to me at my podcast, Medicine, Marriage, and Money. I did take a short hiatus, but it is filled. I think I have 83 episodes filled with just women and some men talking about our marriages, about real and how we create those systems to maintain a successful marriage, and with money, a little bit of finances sprinkled in. So those 2 places.
Yeah, that's great. And your big focus is this interdependence in marriage. And so I really love that. What does that mean to you?
Oh, marital interdependence. So what marital interdependence means to me is that you're both super, you've decided your whatever it is, qualities, values that you hold true to you, like loving, peaceful, calm, determined, confident, whatever it is, that your core values are, that you are that way individually. And that when you're with your spouse, you're just each stronger together because you fill your buckets individually. And then you have a common shared goal where you can come together, achieve even more, and really lift each other up, play on each other's strengths and recognize each other's weaknesses, but not getting down on them, but just elevating them in a way oh, well, I'm going to help out with this, you help with that. So it's really just super loving people independent, but not so independent that you can't be stronger together and that you can't create even more love when you're together.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Moyers.
It's been such a pleasure. Until next week.
Honor.
Be well.
Bye.
All right, Sky community, thank you for listening to another episode. This episode was sponsored by Sky Women's Health. As a reminder, we're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we help relieve back pain and pelvic pain in pregnancy and beyond. If you are pregnant and having pain and you feel like you have no reliable way to relieve it, look us up at skywomenshealth.com, request an appointment, and we'll call to get you scheduled. As a board-certified OB-GYN with a neuromusculoskeletal medicine fellowship, I help you realign with hands-on drug-free treatment and relieve pain on the spot without medication. We'll help you maintain these results through your pregnancy and postpartum period. Every pregnant person deserves this, and we are so excited to serve you. You can find us on our website, as mentioned, or on social at Sky Women's Health, or you can call the office at 817-915-9803. That's it for today. Until next week, be well.